welcome to the ENT News. My name is Daryl Ford, and today we'll be talking about the Bindlestiff Family Circus. We'll be joined by Ellia, the virtual stage manager, via a pre-recorded interview, and live we'll be joined by Keith Nelson, the host and impresario of the Bindlestiff Family Circus, and John Huntington, the technical wizard behind the scenes. The Bindlestiff Family Circus is in its 25th year, and it's been 1 year since they've been streaming the show virtually. And they're here to tell us all about it. So, before our interview, here's the best of season 2 of the Bindlestiff Family Circus. So many talented performers in that short montage. Bravo. Now let's check out our pre-recorded interview with the virtual stage manager of the show. Hey, joining us today is Ellia of the Bindlestiff Family Circus. Today, we need to find out a little bit more about the Bindlestiff Family Circus and you, of course. Tell us a bit about yourself and how you became virtual stage manager.
So I've been working with Bindlestiff Family Circus in various capacities since 2002. I started out as a fan, and then I volunteered for what I thought was going to be a night, and it turned into about a 15-year relationship. I've done everything with Bindlestiff, from slinging merch at the merch table, going on tour with them to do that. I sometimes have written our annual fundraising letters. I've sat on the board, done a bunch of house managing. That show had been a monthly occurrence. And when COVID hit last year, it happens the first Monday of every month. So we did the first Monday in March, and then the first Monday in April was approaching. And by then it was like all the theaters were closed. And so Keith approached me and said, how do you feel about being a virtual stage manager and making this show happen on social media? And I had used Zoom a bunch by then, but not like in an expert manner. And so I quickly boned up and we did our first show, and it went really well. And so many people tuned in, were afraid and hungry for connection because we just started this quarantine kind of thing. We decided we would do it every week going forward.
With everyone performing all over the world, and how challenging is it to wrangle all of these different top performers to meet every week?
It kind of depends. I mean, somebody who's a really pro level performer live might not have the technical expertise or comfort level or just the equipment to make a virtual performance look really slick. And somebody who is not necessarily a seasoned performer might have a setup that's great. And so, like, everybody has a different set of needs. The international aspect, it's more seamless than you'd think. We've had people performing on the street in India who have like incredible Wi-Fi bandwidth and a great camera, and it looks really, really smooth and looks great. It's more about just dealing with time zones and people being willing to stay up late.
That's really cool. One of my favorite things about the show that involves you is the merch song. It's a very cool, creative way to get people to run to the store and buy some merch. Honestly speaking, if we can run that during our show, it'd be pretty interesting.
The show wouldn't be possible without the incredible team that we've built, and that I think is the part that's maybe not so visible from the outside. It's not just me; it's me and John Huntington, who I know you'll talk to as well, working backstage to make sure that all the tech stuff is going on. We have 2 people handling the social media side. So those of us who are backstage are really just handling the performers and the Zoom and the video and audio playback. And we're not dealing with the sort of outward facing stuff hardly at all. And that's the thing that makes this possible.
Thank you so much for being on the show today.
All right. Thank you so much. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, welcome back. We're here with Keith and John. How are you guys doing?
Great.
Right. Yeah. Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah.
No worries. Thanks for coming to talk to us. Now, Keith, I'm going to open up with this question. Can you reflect a little bit about the Bindlestiff Family Circus going virtual this year?
Sure. In what was it, March, we had our normal monthly circus open mic night, Bindlestiff Open Stage Variety Show. And then about a week later, the whole world went into lockdown. And as we were coming into April, we felt a major need to bring the artists together, to create community, to connect with our audience. So as Ellia mentioned, I reached out to Ellia and John and said, hey, I got this crazy idea of a show. What do you think? And so we started off as a one-off concept, but pretty much in the middle of the show, we're like, we need to keep us together. Who knows how long this is going to be? And kind of jumped into it full force at that moment and haven't stopped since.
It's pretty awesome. So, John, can you reflect on your experience?
Yeah, it's been really interesting. I was thinking, watching that video with Ellia, like the first night that we did, because this was really just sort of intended as a one-off thing, and we kind of cobbled together this approach. We've learned a lot since then. And I just remember after that first performance, that it was a little bit of magic you could feel in the air, like, oh, wow, that really, people really, and there was so much feedback and people really enjoyed it so much that people really connected. But that was really kind of exciting. And now we've sort of, I think we've learned from many mistakes over the last year, and keep sort of tweaking within the limits of what we're able to do, because we are in the end running this thing behind the scenes on Zoom, which was never designed to run a virtual variety show. It was made for, conferencing and stuff like that. But over the last year, we've really worked out a lot of approaches and stuff. But I think the thing that, or solved a lot of the problems, and when things go well, it can be really, really smooth. But I think the thing to me, as was mentioned previously, is that the community that's created, both, I think, with us backstage, just sort of seeing each other every week virtually, and sort of catching up, and whatever the gossip is and whatever. But then I think Keith has been really good about cultivating this too, is the community amongst the audience is really important too. That Keith has really sort of innovated some ideas about chat, and there's a bingo game for, like, if you see a cat on screen or something like that, that's one of the bingo squares. So all this, there really is a community of people that get together and watch this thing from all around the country, around the world, every Monday night. And it's great to see that.
Yeah, it's cool you guys kept the spirit alive, because whenever I'm in the chat, there's so many people interacting and really loving the show. So, if you guys weren't doing it, there'd be a big piece missing, honestly. You guys have been around for 25 years, so you definitely do have the fan base looking for you.
I mean, you don't want clowns with free time, so we needed to figure out, otherwise things get really dangerous. So it was a good way to make sure that at least this particular clown was extremely busy for the last year.
Gotcha. And running off that answer, any favorite moments or things you've experienced from this experience, Keith?
I mean, to me, the international community that is kind of a phenomenal thing that this has done way beyond what we've ever been able to do before. With this show, we don't have to worry about visas. We don't have to worry about travel and all the other aspects that usually go with creating an international cast. And then just having the privilege and pleasure of an artist being in a living room in, say, Ohio, sharing a moment with a family that's sitting in their living room in India, and sharing a moment with a group of folks who are in their village in Uganda, and all at the same moment in real time sharing this experience together. To me, it's just a magical thing that comes out of this.
And John, any favorite moments for you?
Yeah, I think really every week, even when I'm tired and run down from teaching at City Tech online and doing all the other things going on, I really look forward to that, getting together every week. Sunday, we rehearse Sunday nights, and then Monday night is the show. And that has really been like every week's like even when I'm like run down, I'm like, oh man, I have to do this thing. But it's been really something to look forward to. And from being a technical guy, a lot of the challenges we had to sort out were significant, and I think we've kind of come up with a pretty polished approach to a lot of these things. And I think probably the most memorable of the shows, probably for all of us, was Keith's internet went out right in the middle of the show for like 10 or 15 minutes, and we're like scrambling backstage to try to figure out what to do. And Ellia, of course, as you saw in the other piece, is a performer, so she can actually step up and sing a song or whatever if necessary. And we're like, messaging, we have a whole backstage chat and voice intercom and all kinds of stuff. And we're trying to but part of that's internet based. So we couldn't really communicate with Keith or getting like a text message. So, I mean, that's always the excitement about a live performance is you don't know what's going to happen. And I think another thing that Keith has been really good about is that we have a few pre-recorded bits, but for the most part, it's like 99% live. So you're really, and that also means things can go wrong, which makes it exciting.
So we definitely do have some images to bring all this to light for our viewers. So can you talk our viewers through some of these photos? So here's the first one.
So this is from actually the last big stage production we did before all the lockdown happened. This is called Brooklyn Abridged. It was we created it with David Gallo, and Skip Shirey was a musician. And right now you see Ermias Malukin, who's an Ethiopian trained acrobat now, who came to the US to work with Dolly Parton, and then luckily has been working with us ever since on what's called a Rollabola. And you see the full cast at a space called the Connolly, which is a cute little proscenium theater that's on the Lower East Side.
Okay, and photo credits to John Huntington for that photo. Here's the second photo.
This one shows you just how much better the internet is in India than Brooklyn. This is at sunrise in Delhi, and it's a street performer diving through a flaming hoop on a rooftop.
Gotcha. I believe we have two more for you. Here's the next one coming up.
I mean, right now with the pandemic, there are circus studio spaces all over the country that are sitting virtually empty, or maybe only having one or two folks training at a time. And the nice thing about this show is we've been able to provide an opportunity for these spaces to have the artists working within them having a moment to actually go do what they do, and luckily in a space big enough to do what we do, because the living rooms that most of us have been in the pandemic aren't big enough for an aerial act or a crossbow act or some of the other bigger acts we've had. And these spaces have been able to share that with us.
Okay. And our final photo.
That again is a big space, but it's Logan Kerr, who's the one on the left, is basically raised with Bindlestiff. She started as a roustabout, which is stagehand in circus. And like many of the folks who start with us in a staffing position, long for the spotlight, train, and all of a sudden are, moving from stagehand into being in the spotlight. And then working with her is Molly Plunk, and the two of them a few years ago started putting together a wire act, and this gave them reason to keep working over the past year, because right now there aren't that many openings for wire acts in a setting where there's no live shows.
Okay. Some of my favorite performances were like Shoot Takata, the Yo-Yo, dude from Japan. He's pretty awesome. A Pyromancer was pretty cool. I remember him. But yeah, these thank you for explaining those photos for us. So that's all the questions I have for you both today. Is there anything you would like to tie up the show with? We'll start with you, Keith.
For people, the moment that things are safe and we have your vaccines and space start opening, go support live entertainment. That's, hopefully the Save Our Stages is going to give a little funding. Hopefully the government will, but in order to me, great culture needs this kind of entertainment, needs art happening. And the only way in America that we can afford to do this is from you, the people, coming out to support it.
Absolutely. So make sure you guys visit bindlestiff.org. We'll talk more about that later. John, how about you?
Yeah, I think I would just add to what Keith says. We have, I think, 3 more shows online live on Monday nights. So please watch them. And I think you mentioned I shot that photo for them. I mean, I started as a fan of Bindlestiff, and I do a lot of photography. So I came and shot that show, which to me is just a joy, because that show, I think, was probably one of the best circus shows I've ever seen. I've seen a lot of circus productions. But yeah, come out and really support these guys. Man, do they work hard. For me, it's kind of like a fun diversion on top of my real job, full-time job. But really support these guys if you can, because they definitely, they're worth it. And the money goes a long way. The value you get from seeing these shows, the production value stuff is pretty amazing.
And the show on April 19th, we're actually going to be visiting the International Space Station. So I encourage, if you want to see juggling in space, there aren't that many other places you can do that.
Wow. Okay.
We almost had Antarctica, but it turns out they don't have enough bandwidth to do a live shot from there. But we made the connection. So,
all right. So, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
No worries. So, if you'd like to find out more about the Bindlestiff Family Circus, you can visit bindlestiff.org. And if you'd like to read more about the Bindlestiff Circus, or find out what John Huntington is up to next, including his cat Popsicle, you can go to controlgeek.net. So remember to follow us on YouTube and Twitch. I'm your host, Daryl Ford. This has been the ENT News. But wait, there's more. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, ENT students of all ages, I introduce Keith Nelson performing a stunt.
Before I get this done, I'd like to talk to all of you about something that I have a feeling most of you are probably familiar with, especially with the pandemic in hand, and that is depression. Many of you have probably tried a lot of different things that you thought would help you get through the day. I don't know, yoga, art, meditation, drinking. But in all my years, there's only one thing I've learned that I could really trust when it comes to depression, and that is, of course, common hardware. Now, some of you out there may be familiar with what's called the human lobotomy. Some of you more educated sorts may be familiar with what's called trepanation. You see, fairly recently in history, they found all of these skulls that were about 2,000 years old, and they had holes drilled all throughout them. At first, they thought this was some form of torture. But in 1962, a Dutch doctor came along, and he proved to the world that if you drill a hole all the way into your head, you could get rid of those downer thoughts, those cloudy days. Here we go. Now, in the back of the head, there happens to be a little screw. Once you've gained access to that screw, you can take a screwdriver, put it all the way back, and adjust the way you think, the way you feel, the way you move about in your everyday life. Now, for the hardware-minded, you might notice that this is a Phillips head screwdriver. That's because the screw in the back of my head's not of the common type. And now the little bitty turn to the left. I can feel a whole lot better. Thanks, y'all.